You may not know it, but there's a war going on over the nation's water. Right now, bottled water is poised to outsell soft drinks for the first time. Some insist it's a healthy trend, but others say bottled isn't necessarily better than tap and worry about the environmental impact. That's this week's cover story, Water Wars. Even with a GPS, we had a hard time finding this small natural spring nestled in the scenic hills of Maine, where the owner's love for water runs as deep as the ancient underground aquifer that feeds it.
Trust me, it's the best you'll ever have.
Very good. Cold and clear.
Fantastic.
And fresh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Brian Pullen owns Summit Spring and all its history.
That's the cleanest thing you've ever touched in your entire lifetime. And this building is original. The masonry is original. The reason the building is in such great shape is because the water emanates from the ground at 46 degrees year-round. Never changes. This metal enclosure is built over the spring. Look inside and you can see down through several feet of super clear water to the H2O bubbling up through the gravel. The purest, most unadulterated water on the planet, says Pullen, which he bottles in modest amounts and sells regionally and online. The bottling plant is actually 17 feet below where the source emanates, so we bottle by gravity. And by gravity flowing to the bottling plant right there 50 feet away. So we believe we're probably the only one almost anywhere on Earth that captures the water, gravity feeds it right into the bottle, only at the source. No transportation, no pumps, no boreholes, no anything. Summit Spring is a small player in a huge and some say strange industry. Americans are paying big bucks for a resource widely available for free. In 2015, bottled water sales reached $14.2 billion, up 8.7% over the year before. Americans drank a collective 11.7 billion gallons, averaging 36.3 gallons per person. And some recognizable names are leaders in the industry. Nestle with brands like Arrowhead, Deer Park, and Poland Springs, Niagara, Coca-Cola with Dasani, and Pepsi with Aquafina. Joe Doss heads up the International Bottled Water Association. It's obviously a milestone event that bottled water is about to become the #1 beverage product in the U.S. And again, I think it has to do with, it's health-driven, it's consumer-driven. I think this is a function of consumers wanting to live healthier lifestyles. We're an on-the-go society. Bottled water is safe, healthy, convenient. Is it worth paying a premium for real spring water? Absolutely it is. Says the guy who sells the spring water. Well, you can say that. But this is the most important thing you can do for your health or your children. But muddying the bottled water pitch are environmentalists who question the impact of large-scale removal of water from springs and underground aquifers. There are a lot of reasons why that's bad environmentally. May Wu is a senior attorney at the National Resources Defense Council. First, you think about the bottles that are being made. They'd pump oil out of the ground and then turn it into these plastic bottles and then use them to fill up to make the bottled water. So all of the environmental costs come from producing the bottles, transporting the bottles, and then at the end of the life cycle, most people don't recycle these bottles, so they just end up sitting in the landfill forever. There are other objections. Across North America, we found recent efforts to slow or stop the water industry from extracting what the communities see as their precious resource. From Muskegon, Michigan to Presque Isle, Wisconsin, Suwannee and Lakeland, Florida, Los Lunas, New Mexico, Siskiyou County, California, and throughout Ontario, Canada. You're taking millions of gallons of water from one area, and if you're trucking it to another part of the country or another part of the world, then it is leaving the local city and the local town. Today, the U.S. is awash in water wars. Water has sparked a sometimes violent standoff after the federal government granted fast-track approval to build the Dakota Access Oil Pipeline near the Standing Rock Indian Reservation. Native Americans and other protesters insist a spill could harm the water the tribe and other residents rely on. This week, the government said it would explore alternate routes. In Flint, Michigan, the government's attempt to make the water safer actually contaminated it with lead, causing a public health crisis. In this case, it's bottled water to the rescue. A federal judge recently ordered officials to provide each resident at least 48 liters of bottled water per week.
Meantime, water bottlers have an answer for every environmental criticism. As for the idea that it's depleting community water supplies,
bottled water uses 0.02% of all the groundwater that is extracted in the United States. And they can determine, and usually do, by the permitting process, how much water can be extracted. So again, it's in our best interest to have long-term sustainable sources of water, otherwise we wouldn't be in business.
And the industry says it continues to push for recycling. Finally, the big question, is bottled water any better than tap water? Naturally, that depends on the quality of the tap and the bottle, which varies widely. The problem is most bottled water doesn't come from a place like this, fresh spring water that bubbles above the ground with no filtering necessary and straight to your table. In fact, some bottled water comes straight from the faucet.
So know that you're not buying a product that's necessarily cleaner, that's necessarily safer. So don't buy it thinking that's what you're getting. But if you've decided for whatever reason that that's the decision that you want to make, you should do it with all that knowledge.
There is a real reason for people to be wary of the bottled water craze.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not all great bottled water.
Is there a difference in food? Is there a difference in organic food? Is there a difference between certain producers of food and other producers of food? Does it matter if it was sprayed with chemical? You got to do your homework. You got to pay attention.
The importance of seizing the new high ground in the water wars was demonstrated just this week. Coca-Cola announced that its current CEO will step down next year to make way for a new CEO who says he plans to expand the soft drink giant's move toward, as he put it, low-calorie and non-calorie products. And a large part of that market and demand is for water.